Good morning. Let's call this meeting to order. Let's begin with our invocation and pledges.
Lord, as we gather here today, may we do so with open minds and open hearts. We are blessed with the opportunity to engage in meaningful conversations that lead us to understanding, progress, and solutions for the greater good of our students and community. As we approach the end of another school year, let us reflect on the journey we've taken together and celebrate the milestones we have achieved, both in our students and ourselves. May we recognize the dedication of every educator and the strength found in our community. We are grateful for the gift of this time and for the responsibility entrusted to us. May we use it wisely. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Anyone sign up?
No, sir.
No. Okay, at this time, with the permission of the board, we're going to go from item 3 to item 6. We're going to go as permitted by any questions or everybody okay with that? Okay. As permitted by sections 551.001 through 551.146 of the Texas Government Code, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, discussion on personnel and administrator employment resignations, reassignments, leaves of absences, and contract renewals, and pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, attorney consultation regarding legal issues related to proposed non-renewal of term contract. And item C, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, consider and discuss recommendation for proposed non-renewal of the term contract for employee Elsa Sanchez Quintanilla. And D, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.087, deliberate regarding commercial or financial information that the governmental body has received from a business prospect. The governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of the governmental body, and with the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071 through 551.129, consultation with district's legal counsel. We will now go into closed session at 11:33. Come back into open session at 12:22. And we'll go to item 7. We convene into open session to take appropriate action that was discussed in closed session.
I move that the board accept the superintendent's recommendation to propose the non-renewal of the term contract of Elsa Sanchez Quintanilla, and further move that the board direct the superintendent to give written notice to Elsa Sanchez Quintanilla as required by law.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
I move that in the event of a non-renewal hearing, the hearing will be conducted by the Southwest ISD School Board. I further move to accept the superintendent's recommendation to authorize a Walsh Gallegos attorney to advise and assist the board in connection with any non-renewal hearing, and with the board president to impose procedural rules for any hearing, as well as move to authorize another Walsh Gallegos attorney to present the case for the administration.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we will now go into item 4, consider approval of 95 phonics.
Yes, we've come to the board before with a K to 3rd grade, and then the last was for 4th grade. We found some really good just feedback from the teacher. The students are doing great with this program, and so now we're coming back to the board to approve 95% funding for fifth grade.
I move.
Second. We have a motion and a second. The board approved the purchase of the 95 phonics for the 2024-2025 school year for fifth grade as a supplemental resource not exceeding $80,000. Questions, anyone? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item 5, items of information, budget update.
Scott has a presentation, I know he'll be putting that up there, and all the boards got a handout.
We'll start with, so Scott's been working on it. We went through kind of the expenditure side, where we worked on staffing models. We looked at our stipend agreements, reduced those to find savings. We're currently going through budget process and looking at budgets on trying to reduce budgets by 10% across the board at the departments across the district. We're having a little bit more struggle with that because places like facilities and maintenance and transportation, those budgets have gone up and price of products have not gone down. And so we're going to still look into and venture in that. And Scott did some preliminary revenue based on our data currently and what we project for next year. But also this is a very high level. It's really early because we know there's some House bills out there, Senate bills out there on school finance. So we do have some runs on what that potentially might look like, but that's got a lot of that has to be worked out still. So Scott, you got about 15 minutes, sir.
All right, so I think I only need 10 now.
Before the Scott starts, I'd like to commend the board because the board has been very good stewards of the money. The board has an excellent fund balance. So I want to make sure that we're very clear the district is not broke. Y'all have been very good stewards of the money. But at the same time, as we're looking at the legislative session, we are not anticipating getting all the money that we need. So that is why we're having these conversations. I don't want anybody to misinterpret anything. We continue to be good stewards of our taxpayers' money and the money that we get. But in anticipation that we're not going to be funded more, we have to look at every avenue to make sure that we assist the board in continuing to be the good stewards of the budget. So thank you, board.
All right, here we go. All right, I'm just going to skip ahead and just go right into the legislative updates. So right now we have Brandon and I have access to the legislative tracker from Moat Casey. So if you guys have questions about specific legislative items that are in the session right now, you can give us a call and we can track those for you. So there's that. So the first update I'd like to talk about is House Bill 2. This is a very important update that's out there right now, where currently the law provides us with the allotment that we receive, our basic allotment, as well as instructions on how to handle teacher raises. And so House Bill 2 is being proposed, and it's been out there. It's going to raise the basic allotment and also provide additional funding for salaries for teachers and school district employees. And so
How much does it raise it, Scott?
it raises it $395.
Of nearly $395 more, right?
Yes.
Just want to make sure.
So
It's not very much. but-
It's not, ma'am, you're right.
yeah, we'll see the slides later.
Good
But
way to put it, $1 a day.
so the House Bill 2 is kind of stalled a little bit in the legislature. Not sure why it stalled a little bit. The voucher was able to get passed and signed off, but this one is still being looked at. So more to come on this one. And as we talk about House Bill 2, they do have a provision about teachers who have 10 years or more. And so that's going to be interesting to us if it does go through, because as we look at teacher performance-based pay, how does that factor in? So that's something we're looking at, trying to get more information on as that becomes an actual law. So, all right. So let's get into the budget. This is our current budget year to date as of April 28th. And you can see we're trending right on track as what we planned for. So this includes the winter incentive as part of the amended budget. And on the far right, it's the percent that we've spent. So trending as we should. All right. This next slide this is a very important slide for our budget. This is what we use to write the budget with. We are anticipating 13,668 students as part of our average daily attendance. And that's based on our enrollment projections of 15,216. The enrollment projection of 15,216 is what we use for our staffing and as well as our campus budgets. So that number, you'll see that number pop up a few more times. And so those are our assumptions that we're going with. We've got our taxable preliminary values of 7.5 billion. So that could change as the protests are going on with their taxes and all that good stuff. So that number will fluctuate, but we'll have a more accurate number as we get closer to July. So, all right. So currently for our budget, we're basing our whole budget based on current law. We're not going to write a budget for anything else, only for current law. And so right now we've made some good adjustments that Brandon talked about earlier about the staffing and the stipends. And then we also are looking at lowering some of the non-payroll departmental budgets. It gets us about $1 million in savings. That'll be tough, but we think we can at least propose it for the short term. Now on the right, we've got some costs that have gone up that we know about. We're adding 10,000 for Alvarado, and also our frontline ERP software is going to increase about 20 grand. So, and as far as compensation goes, based on current law, we are recommending that we have a salary freeze, but anyone who's on a scale move up one level. That's the teacher, nurses, librarians, and counselors, and then also the bus driver. So they would move up 1 year. And so that's going to cost us about $800,000. So, and then you guys approved the budget for the insurance, the additional money for the insurance. So that was very helpful. So, all right. Here's some of the savings that we've been able to find for some of the costs that we've added. And so not quite the 4 million, but we're getting closer to it. So that slide is there. Any questions on that? All right. Just wanted to kind of put this slide out there about the enrollment so you can kind of see our trend is upward, which is a very good positive sign for us. There's a lot of districts in our area are not trending upward, so we have increased enrollment, so that is helpful as we continue writing the budget. All right.
I have a
Oh.
quick question.
Okay.
Going back to budget consideration,
Yes.
savings from staffing. Is that accounting, that's attrition, right? I mean, we're not,
The majority of that is not. Majority of that is teacher reduction that we did when we changed the models. So a big portion of that, we can break it down. He has a spreadsheet we could share that shows exactly where we're going to have the savings. And then there's some that was to attrition, but most of those placements have been made, I'm assuming, Francis. And then there were some decisions that we decided not to do. A good example is the nurse's clerk. So that's not in that number.
so this you think is a true number?
Correct. And anything after that, through the attrition that we decided. So example, social workers, that's not in this number yet because we don't want to put a number up there when we propose a budget. It's not going to be part of the savings. So if we have social workers leave and we can split fund them, then that's going to be free up some of those savings that are additional through those.
Okay, so
Attrition
the
items.
$3 million is for sure.
Correct.
Okay. That was my question.
Correct.
For sure.
All right. So this slide right here is our proposed revenue based on current law at the 6160 basic allotment. And we are looking at $166 million. That's about what we're expecting currently with current law on our revenue. Hopefully it'll go up a little bit more, but that's kind of what we're looking at right
One
now.
of our biggest losses, if you go to the bottom where he has it in yellow, the 5931 Medicaid program, we had some, that used to be about 3.5 million.
Yeah.
So we're getting revenue from the state, and hopefully there's a law out there to help supplement those losses for us. We're hoping that passes and they're able to give some of that money that we've lost, because we're still in litigation over the money that we lost from the last year and this year. So lots of changes from the that organization and cut back on that revenue that we were getting. So
Yeah,
it is kind of a big blow for us.
pretty significant loss. And so based on that, we have the campus allotments. And so we've already passed out our campus allotments to the principals, and they've begun working on breaking it down as they see fit on spending those funds right there. We may have to go back and look at the custodial costs have gone up significantly over the last couple of years. So we may have to go back and look at that, but I think we'll be okay at the start of the year. Any questions on the campus allotments? All right, nitty gritty. Here's the draft budget based on current law, and it does include the health insurance increase. And so this budget right here that you're looking at also includes the $1 million subtraction from the department allocations. So right now, if everything stays the way it is, we're looking at about a $7.8 million deficit budget. So
I know that a deficit is very hard to agree on, but I can tell you that in Bear County, this is something that's talked about every month at a superintendent's meeting. Ours is the lowest deficit from all the school districts in Bear County. Some of them, as Brandon mentioned last week, have something as far as up to $47 million deficit, $18 million, $21 million. So though we want to continue to decrease that, $7 million deficit is actually one of the best ones.
And last year was 12.
12. So whereas it was 12.9, this was about 7.7. The thing about that, and now I kind of mentioned to the committee a little bit, is not only when we reduced the staffing models, we were able to cut some staff, but we're growing too. So, I mean, our class sizes are going to grow a little bit, but we're not going to be sitting at like a, 27, 28 in our elementaries. But that's why we broke down the capacities at each elementary. We have room. And so we were very friendly and nice to campuses with the models, allow for extra. And so we kind of cut out the extra. And that's where we have the biggest savings. And we're not adding. Because in the past, we've added staff and then compensation. And that's kind of where you have a huge number in your payroll costs. So we're really doing two things. One, reducing staff and not adding staff, which is causing us to see our deficit shrink. And that's what's helping. And then with added revenue.
And we have other districts that have adopted larger class sizes than we are
Oh,
adopting.
yeah.
So,
And just so the board's clear, so I don't want to get out there because we did this with our ESAC too. We adopted class size staffing models, not class size. You have to be at, 23 to 1. It's just, this is how we're going to staff you. And then we're going to give you the FTEs and you figure it out. And so like elementaries, we're not going to let schools be with 25 kids in first grade. So that's kind of, I just want to make sure it's not our ratios changed in each classroom based on when they actually have kids in there. It's just how we staff.
Thank you for explaining that, because
Yeah.
a lot of times the public doesn't understand how
Correct.
that works.
It's just a staffing model, not
Right.
what we say you were going to have in your class.
That we have to
Yeah.
spend, no matter what we have to spend.
Correct.
We do different things, but the fact that we're tracking them in the right direction, even though we know we are going to be bringing on a new elementary, tracking in the right
Right.
direction, that we're going to do this all within the, constraints that we're under with the money, but that we're not wasting money or increasing too large of a size and all that stuff. So thank you.
And so here's a draft for fun based on House Bill 2's proposed increases. And so as you can see, it's a little bit different. It's about a $5.8 million deficit. And the reason for the huge difference is, yes, we're receiving a lot of money, but a lot of that has to go towards mandatory salary increases. And so you can see that up at the on the staffing part near the.
Yeah. So
So you can see
I was
that.
sharing with Dr. Ball, the House bill, even though it's significant, they're going to raise the basic allotment, which we want. We want the money in basic allotment more than anywhere else because then we get to choose how to use it.
Yeah.
But inside that, they raised it. And so the basic allotment gets us about an extra $4.8 million. And then they're tying all that to salaries, like, 40% of it has to go back to teachers, nurses, and then 75% of it all has to go to salaries and include your other folks. And then after that, there's a lot of weights for the other money that goes specific programs like special ed, comp ed, safety allotment, things that we can't free up to help, let's say, operations like facilities and maintenance budgets and transportation budgets. So even though they're giving us more money, they're actually telling us how to spend it, which was what we didn't really want them to do because compensation wise, we feel like in our market, we're pretty comparable. But all we're doing is moving that up again against everybody else. But where we're hurting is in a lot of other places, other places in salaries, other places in like running our facilities, running our operations. And so that's just giving you a heads up. That's why it looks like, well, yeah, you're getting all this money. Why is it not reducing down to zero? because a lot of it's getting tied up in some of these other programs and allotments, and then also in future salaries that they're going to tell us how to spend it.
That has not been voted on.
It has not been voted on, still
Mhm.
in the House as far as we know.
And they're running out of time.
Are they getting a lot of pushback for the basic allotment amount?
I think they have to agree between, because this is the House bill. It's not like the Senate bill. Senate bill is all give all the money to the teachers, and there's not much else for anything else.
Okay.
So they have to come to an agreement because they got to work together.
And there's several other nuances in the House bill too, besides the increase of the basic allotment. I think it's taken a lot of time. How much do we give for the bilingual, how much
Dyslexia.
PTE, all that stuff is.
And then they have to work with the Senate, whose bill was just teacher increases. That was their finance bill. So they got to work together.
It's a big animal. Hopefully it makes its way through.
I wonder how many of those legislators are past teachers. Probably not.
Correct. Yeah.
It looks like most of them are lawyers, is what I
Yeah.
can tell. So, all right. Speaking of fund balance, here we go. So on the left, you have the current fund balance. That would be if we pass the budget based on the current law. So it looks like we'd have about a $7.8 million loss, which would bring our fund balance to $50 million, which is very significant. We're able to operate. That's a good fund balance to have. With House Bill 2, we'd be kind of in the same boat. It would take our fund balance to 52 million. So just wanted to have that slide there for you guys to have if you needed it. So, all right. Budget timeline. All right. Well, we're in May, and we were going over the budget, and we're going to go over it again in June. Hopefully in June, we'll have a little more information. We should know which direction we want to go. If there is any kind of compensation increase, we should have a little bit better handle on the laws that are in session that are about to be passed. And so, and then in July, as we move towards July, we'll have probably have a compensation plan that we can present that will tie into our budget that we're looking to adopt in August. We should have our certified values cleaned up by then and have a better understanding of what our revenue should be. So looking forward to August. All right. Any questions?
Going back to fund balance, it says that we have to have a minimum of 3 months
Yes.
based on last year. What was last year, 3 months, más o menos?
Probably
175 divided by,
Well, I think it's about 45 million we have to have
Yeah.
to run 3 months. We're spending 15 million a month. Is pretty much what we operate on.
we're at 4 months right now. So
We're at 73 million right now. And then we go to 57, that's if we spend every dollar out of this
Yeah.
budget this year based on was a $12.9 million deficit, but then we also added the incentive. So really we have $15 million fund balance deficit this year. That's if we spend every dollar, which I don't anticipate happening. So we'll see what that number, that second to last bar, 57 million might be at the end of this year. And then if we continue to operate in a deficit, we're going to chip away and get below the 3 months reserves.
Can we go ahead and put the thought of doing a that thing that we have to do?
The legislative update? Absolutely.
Because not all of us go to that thing where they give it to us.
The SLI.
So
Mhm.
maybe we do something that they'll
Absolutely.
come to the board and give it to us, because I always have trouble getting that.
And we need that as a training, right?
We can do that in August or September if you would like.
Well, one, like, probably has to be September, once the law goes into effect.
We can do it in August.
Yeah.
Okay, well, whatever.
Sometimes they also still do it at the fall conference too. But we can do it.
Yeah, but some of us don't go to either of those.
Sure.
Okay.
A couple of points though that I would like to make. Again, really thanking Scott and Brandon for working on this. As y'all can see, if you go back to that slide, I just want to make it very clear of the healthy fund balance that the board has been able to help it grow. But one of the amazing things of the team is that they're always being proactive. There will not be another legislative session before we open up Alvarado Elementary. So we have to be very cautious of what we do because there will be a cost to open up Alvarado Elementary. So Brandon, do you want to speak a little bit on that?
But so, as we get into working through Alvarado. Right now, we're starting to build budgets for Alvarado. First of all, for opening. So a lot of the money that we could use to open Alvarado, operation-wise, facilities-wise, could come from the bond funds. But there will be some purchases outside of that, like curriculum-wise and setting up that campus for success. There could be some movement, like other areas like we've done in the past with technology and moving different things from buckets of campuses that are going to be losing kids, but for the most part, to get them a fresh start. So we'll start building that budget. And at the end of the day, we'll need to look at capacities across our district. So we're going to start the demographic study. And we've already contacted Brent. He's already started to work on it. And so in June, hopefully we'll have a study of where our campuses boundary changes might happen, and then look at capacities of campuses that maybe we need to look at doing something different. And that's all I want to say at this point is, are we maximizing every facility? And if not, where is there potential savings?
Well put. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We have first read of FDA local policy update and revision.
Yes, Ms. Parsons is going to speak on that. There are lots of handouts on that, a PowerPoint and some other board policy handouts. We recently worked with Amy. Amy is the individual from TASB that provides us our board policies. It was a great learning experience for everybody that was involved. Really helped us to see what our policy says and what our practices are. So in looking at that, there was a little bit of a discrepancy in regards to what we actually do and what our policy says, specifically in the area of FDA local. So Francis is going to speak on that so we can have the first read.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm here to speak really about the FDA local policy. One of the things that we like to do is make sure that you understand some of the data behind that. So I'm going to ask Dr. Hogan as one of the chairs of this committee to really talk about some of the data that she has for us.
So we ended up doing 2 separate rounds for the transfer process. So during our first round, we focused only on staff and their children. So this is the breakdown of all of what we processed during round 1. So we processed 291 applications. And if you note, there are 2 campuses that obviously stand out, which were Elm Creek and then Southwest High School were the 2 that had the most transfers during round 1. Those have all been processed. And then when we went to round 2, we actually processed a larger number with that group. And that particular group included, there were still staff kids that were, applications were coming in, and then they were also other out-of-district transfers. So we had 498 transfers that we have processed through the committee for this round. What I will note, just so that everybody hears this, is that we're still getting transfer applications every single day. It averages anywhere between 2 to 6 or 7 a day. And so they're not, and it's not just staff kids. We do have lots of applications that come in from all over the place and various different reasons. So the number does continue to grow, and the committee, which Ms. Hernandez and myself have been heading up, we're going to continue to process those, but it has been very enlightening in the process.
So this is 700 applications to come to Southwest for non-residents, not including CAST STEM. So let's talk about the process and what FDA is. We did have a TASB review of all of our board policies, and you'll get some more information on some updated policies through the summer. We have a collection of data that was done by a committee to find out actually how many inter-district transfers we have coming into our district. We had committee meetings and groups that actually looked through applications and went through to see what the capacity of campuses were and what the staffings were for those campuses. And then we had a policy discussion. Are we able to continue this process? And then what needs to be revised? Are we actually following through with our policy? And then we're here today as our first read. And then at the May board meeting, we're going to ask for the approval of the board change. So let's dive into it. I want to remind you, I've provided everybody the TASB recommended new wording. It's in front of you. It has blue and red in it. And just to remind you, red means that it's a deletion. It'll have a strikeout. Blue means they're asked to add that to the existing policy. The black lines are the existing policy, the way that it stands. We are talking about inter-district, which is non-resident students coming to Southwest ISD. We are not talking about intra, which are our residents going from one campus to another. So today it's outside coming into Southwest ISD. And that's what our FDA focus will be about.
Francis, can I ask you just real quick? Do we get if we get a kid coming from north side who wants to come to Southwest, do we get the money for that when they come?
Yes. Well, we get state funding, we don't get tax funding.
Yes.
Because they're not a taxpayer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't get the,
We don't get the full, but we do get the foundation, the basic allotment.
how much is?
6,100.
ballpark? No,
Well,
ballpark to what we're, the state,
well,
I mean, whatever the
So
tax.
Well, it depends on the tax. Like if they lived in our district and had a home and they would pay taxes, they would be paying taxes based on the value of their home.
No, I know, but what are we losing? I mean, if the kid comes from north side, we're getting the basic allotment, but
We won't get taxes because they still pay taxes wherever they live if they have a
I'm just
home.
asking ballpark, how much are we?
Well, most $2,200, $2,500, something like that.
So we're having to educate the child without the tax.
Correct.
But again, that money goes into a state pool. North sides and ours all goes to the same pool, and then it's funded
Well,
supposedly
Yeah.
equally.
I mean, if you're a taxpayer in Southwest ISD and you pay Southwest ISD taxes, but you take your kid to Northside, we get the tax money for that
Yeah.
kid. So
Okay,
the state just realizes that in their
Yeah, and
foundation.
then balances it out.
but we get the basic allotment.
Correct.
Okay.
So let's talk about what our actual policy states right now. Our current policy, as written in front of you, says that no non-resident student shall attend Southwest ISD. And that is how it's written. That a non-resident district employee may request admission for their child through an application process. Transfers are only granted for 1 year. Factors for considering the approval of a out-of-district transfer would be the availability of space, instructional staff required for that, students' disciplinary history, and the attendance record of that child. And if they violate our code of conduct and our guidelines, that they can be non-renewed for the following year. And that is what is on this page, and it's in the black section. That's what you have. So you'll see the first outline in yellow that says that really we don't have open borders. So what are we proposing? Our proposed change is that we add non-resident students may attend Southwest ISD if their siblings are already enrolled in the district and they follow the factors that are already listed below. Meaning we're trying not to separate families into two different school districts. If they already have a sibling here, we would let the siblings continue on their educational path here at Southwest ISD. In addition, we need a statement added so that non-resident students may attend Cass High School because that is an open campus and we allow enrollment from across San Antonio. So those are our two lines that we would add in that section. You'll see one of them highlighted in pink with the word siblings. You'll see the other one with the blue dash on the far right side so that you'll know that that's the Cass STEM line. In addition to that, we would request that we have regulations created, and that was provided to you on the following page. And the regulations basically would state that through the deputy superintendent and through growth and planning, that we would allow that we would determine which campuses are at maximum capacity for resources of staff and space as per the factors in FDA local to make a determination which campuses could close for transfers from out of district in district as not to put a burden within the school. And so that would be done annually. In a nutshell, this would allow for the transfers of students for Cass STEM High School based on the application, which is a process they've used since they've been in our district. It would allow employees' children to be considered based on the criteria that is located in this policy, which is space and resources of staff, the attendance and behaviors and disciplinary history of a child, that we would allow sibling groups to continue to attend Southwest ISD pre-K through 12th grade if their child is already if the sibling is already enrolled this year in the 2024-25 school year. The factors would not change. They would still be the same. And that if a student violates this policy or any other of our guidelines, we can non-renew that transfer for the following year, which is already existing in that policy. Do you have any questions?
Do you anticipate any phone calls for us? Is there anything we're doing that's going to affect our existing kids at all?
So I think that we've already received a lot of the phone calls, just actually having the committees review and look through everything. But as a person who has pupil services and Mary Lou under me, and Adrian, even the years before that, we've had to make decisions about allowing the transfers to come in and take a seat in a program space that may have gone to another child, that we might have had to create another classroom. We might have had to find another teacher. This one would really allow us to use our funding and our dollars for the kids that draw the tax base here, in addition to respect the employee, because that's why they come here, so that their children could have consideration coming in. A lot of districts don't allow everybody to come in. So this allows them to be considered for it if there's opportunity and availability and space and resources. In addition to this, we thought that adding the sibling group really allowed us to be who we say we are, which is family. So if they're already here, we allow them to stay here to continue their educational journey with us. I think those will answer the majority of questions. I think people were just concerned because there might have been rumors that no employees' children would be allowed. And when rumors get out there, it's a problem. And because our policy did not match our practice, that's where complications happen. Now we're trying to align the two. So I think this will actually resolve a lot of the conflict or confusion with our community.
And does this affect UIL at all? I know you mentioned UIL earlier. So if we have a student and they're supposed to go to Lytle and they're like a super fantastic basketball player, and then they come to Southwest, is that allowed?
Well, in UIL, it's allowed because depending on if they were in Lytle and then like their freshman year and they come to Southwest their sophomore year, they have to sit out a year.
Right.
So that's UIL.
Okay.
But once you come to Southwest and you establish residency here, which is we're allowing them to be in our district, even though they're not, they
So like if they came in junior high,
correct.
they could play
Correct.
freshman.
Yeah, their freshman year, they're eligible as far as UIL rules.
They can't just move for athletic reasons.
Correct. Now, if they moved into the district and bought a home or rented an apartment and they established residency that way, there's a waiting time, but it's a lot shorter for that.
Okay.
Say we get a new teacher at Elm Creek, knowing that we're maxed out, are we allowing their child to come with them there?
So the committee actually makes a determination on that. And when we say maxed out, all different grade levels, different programs, we actually have to look child by child and look through their history, look at everything that the child presents and where the spaces are. So we don't make a blanket statement because one classroom could only have 18, the next classroom next to it has 22. We have to make sure that we actually look at all of that, understanding that right now we're still in the middle of registering for next year and that we'll have our big registrations all throughout the summer. We will be doing the same thing we did last year, which is having open registration over in the Human Resources building. We'll have 2 people working to help parents register on time every day in English and Spanish so that they don't have to wait until August or July to register. They can register all summer long so that we actually have good counts when we have new teachers come in.
Other questions that the board might have? So then our plan is to bring this at the regular board meeting for approval. Unless there's questions or comments.
All good? Okay. Other business?
That's all we have?
Thank you very much. Board members, do y'all have anything you want to bring up?
This tonight, is everybody going or who's not going? Or
I know these 3 are going for sure.
I got a call from Boca Negra. last night, just pretty much, she's gonna want us to be kind of hands-on tonight, passing out medallions or trophies and stuff like that, so just FYI.
I think there's probably gonna be 3, 4 for sure, 5 maybe.
So no t-shirt and shorts.
Sorry?
No t-shirt, shorts.
This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, so I know that the team delivered cakes today for teachers. We try to highlight them in the Monday message, so this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. Also Nurses Week is this week. Then we have Thursday is our big employee banquet. I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna go to that one, right? Yes. Then Friday, Relay for Life. We have Relay for Life on Friday.
This Thursday is it for you?
Yes. Yeah. And then it's also School Communications Day. So I'd like to thank Jenny and her team for everything that they do. The list goes on, but I will be texting y'all like I did yesterday. FFA banquet is on May the 13th. The big team of 8 training. But on that team of 8 training, there's also not a regular, but we're gonna have a board meeting where we will also cover the canvassing of the votes. There was one other thing.
And then I'm gonna bring Mo Casey, the contract with Mo Casey and Brett here. They're gonna come meet you, so to help us with what we discussed in closed session.
We will continue to remind you, but also something very exciting that's going on for our district is on the 20th. It is the first time that Southwest ISD is going to go do the teacher incentive allotment. So anybody that on the 20th, of course. But just as a heads up, that if anybody we will spend the entire day going and visiting 63 teachers, giving them a big check. Really,
Is that from last year or from this year?
from last year.
63?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yes,
That's
it
What
is.
are the ranges?
Everything I think was from $8,000 to like $25,000.
For 5 years, they did that. That's
So that's a big deal. That night, they will come to the board, but we also want to make it very special. So if any board member wants to join us as we do that, again, I'll send out reminders, but I know that many of you like to plan ahead. Just want to let y'all know that happens. And
When
you
is
can-
that gonna happen?
On May the 20th.
May the 20th.
Okay,
It's in the mail.
not hearing anything else, we now close this meeting at 1:02.